Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and it's time for more Scuttlebutt. This week's game to keep you entertained while I gab for a while, brought to you by Tier VIII Premium British battleship HMS Vanguard. This was a ship that I was initially very, very down on. And about 2 months ago, maybe a little longer, I don't know, if you're a fan of the channel, you've probably seen some of the videos, but some folks in my chat on Twitch really opened my eyes to this ship. And ever since then, I've tried to make it part of my regular once or twice a week I bust this ship out rotation. I don't always succeed, but I've discovered that I really enjoy playing this ship. And I'm not understanding why she's not more popular. I did a little digging because I was genuinely curious, and I went over to the WWII numbers site, which of course is a third-party stat aggregation site, so it's not perfect. But according to them, on the NA server at least, I didn't look globally, Vanguard is the least played Tier 8 battleship, other than like Alabama ST, which is only awarded to like a handful of people. But like of all of the widely available battleships, Vanguard is the least played Tier 8 battleships. And I find that very disappointing, because this ship, surprisingly, has a lot going for her. Her AP is really good. You look at these shells, you look at the guns, you're like, really? But they really do. They really do. It's very surprising how good these guns are, especially what I like about them is how accurate they are. Now, the ship is soft, right? She'll take damage at weird angles. There's at least, I think, one salvo in this game that I eat a boatload of damage from North Carolina, despite the fact that I'm decently angled, and I'm kind of like, what the hell? But that's just the way the ship plays. She is soft. She's not a pushing ship, but with a little bit of support, she does horrible things at decent ranges, and she's just a ton of fun to play. I really enjoy the hell out of this ship, and I hope you enjoy this game. So what's going on in shooty boats? All kinds of interesting things over the past few weeks. We'll just go ahead and start out by talking about the dev blogs, because that's where all the real interesting stuff is happening. I'll get to some of the other stuff happening on NA in just a bit. One of the big things that they announced that I absolutely love is they've announced a buff to the German destroyer line. This is coming, they ran this in public testing on 9.5 on the public test server. Presumably it's coming with the next patch, which ought to roll out this week. I don't know if it's coming that quickly, but it is at least testing. They're messing around with this, and I really hope this comes to live. This is something that the German destroyers, I think, need a little bit of love on. In general, the German destroyer line is not that bad. It has a bad reputation, and I understand why. Because of all the destroyer lines, these guys are really, really encouraged to fire AP shells out of their guns. All right, well, that's great. The problem is kind of multifaceted with that, though, because AP shells, of course, bounce at certain angles, and usually destroyer-on-destroyer combat is, especially at the ranges you're dealing with, is very quick, it's very frenetic, the angle on your target is changing constantly. So the idea that you're going to be firing AP repeatedly, or at least more than maybe 2 to 3 salvos at an enemy destroyer, in my mind, is just a misnomer. So the HE shells have to be usable. And right now, they're okay-ish. Depends on the destroyer, depends on the caliber of the gun in question. But some of the lighter shells, the 128s in particular, have such anemic damage values that firing them just feels kind of bad. And then there's a lot of people that don't even use the AP against, like, cruisers, which has always been odd to me, but they just won't. They insist on firing the HE. Okay, alright, well, we'll see. But I feel like, if nothing else, it's a good quality of life buff for these ships that might give them a little more attention, recognition, playtime, however you want to phrase it. And I'm excited for this. I'm glad they're bringing this to the game. They've rolled out all kinds of changes to the ships that are currently in testing. Again, none of these ships are on... They're on the live server for testing, but of course none of them have been released yet. Most notably, and I've done some big videos about aircraft carriers, Tier 10 Premium American carrier, Franklin D. Roosevelt, has been changed. All of her planes have kind of been buffed, in the sense of they're faster, they've basically increased the speed, and they've kind of decreased that invulnerability window as a result. Apparently, you know, once a squadron drops bombs, let's say, or fires rockets or whatever, it is actually immune to AA for a certain length of time. What they had for FDR was because the planes were so slow, that number had been kind of artificially inflated a bit. Now, since they've sped up the planes, they've kind of pulled that number back. Okay, I'm okay with this. It seems reasonable. What I don't like is that they still have this 25-second gap interval in between attack times for all of her bombers. That they've stated literally that is a core kind of function of the ship. The idea being that the attacks are meant to be very powerful but intermittent, right? That's intentional by design. I haven't played this ship. I'm just relaying to you what we've read. I'm curious when we're actually able to play this thing. We'll give it a go and see. I'm still not sold on the concept, but I'm at least encouraged to see them trying to design different things into the aircraft carrier class. Speaking of different things in the aircraft carrier class, the German carriers, again featured on the channel elsewhere with a series of videos I did, have all had some changes. They've completely redesigned the torpedoes on the entire line, basically. So, essentially, the torpedoes used to hit like trains, but they kind of crawled. They moved like snails, right? They were like 25 knots. Now they hit like European destroyer torpedoes. They like tickle a little bit, but they move super fast. They're like 50 knots. The idea is, what they've stated is that the goal is that they will be better utilized to hunt enemy destroyers because they're so fast. 50 knots, 52 knots, 55 knots on some of these torpedoes makes them much more difficult for a destroyer to dodge. The difference is they have a very short range. They don't hit that hard. So if you're throwing these at the torpedo belt, let's say, of a battleship, good luck. You're going to do, 6, 7, 8,000 damage with a full salvo and probably not hit a flood, because ordinarily the flood chance of these torpedoes is scaled on the damage. So as they've ramped the damage down, I haven't looked at the numbers, but if they've ramped the damage down, I'm willing to bet you they've ramped the flood chance down. So, all right, we'll see. They're still continuing to muck about with AP rockets, messing about with the penetration values, I think. I'm not surprised by this, right? Like, this is what I've been saying from the beginning. They're going to have to mess around with this concept until it works, and they ain't there yet, right? So they're still messing with AP values on these rockets. So if you run into a game with a German carrier and you get your little light cruiser rocketed off the board, just shrug, chalk it up to testing, and get on with life. Because reality is that they're probably not going to make it to live with the values they have now, whatever they are. They're still messing around with Tier VIII Premium French battleship Champagne, gutting her HP pool. She has like Odin HP pool now. And they've also increased the reload on her guns. They've kind of buffed Tier 10 Premium Japanese battleship Shikishima's secondaries, giving her a little more secondary range. And there's still this Tier 9 Premium Russian battleship they're messing around with testing. I'm not sure what the deal with that is, but I haven't really seen that anywhere. I think it might be some kind of Azure Lane thing. I don't really know. We'll see where that. They haven't announced that ship really. So we'll see what happens there. Regular balance pass, of course. Fans of the new Russian cruisers, specifically Pyotr Bagration, will be glad to know that her hydro is getting fixed. That's coming. Right now, this range on it is too short. It's getting a little bit of a buff to where it should be for the tier. They're continuing to reduce the AP bomb damage on Hakuryu. This is a good thing. They're going to give T-22 hydro, which I'm a big fan of. That's nice. I played T-22 on stream not long ago. She was surprisingly decent, but the Hydra will be really nice. Again, they're nerfing Kremlin's AA. Mucking around with some of the high-tier Russian destroyers. Kind of messing about with their torpedoes and such. This is interesting. It looks as if, yeah, Uduloy's torpedoes are basically getting buffed. And so are Grozovoy's kind of by extension. They're getting a little bit of a damage buff, which I find interesting. Hawkins, Tier 5 British cruiser HMS Hawkins getting a buff on her reload speed. Not a massive one, but a small tweak. Nice comfort of life thing. The Tier 2 and 3 British cruisers are getting a nerf, hilariously. A reload speed nerf. That made me giggle when I saw that. Nobody spends enough time in those ships, I think, to really notice, which is kind of amusing. What else has been going on over here on the dev blog? They basically announced all the final changes to Odin. Odin is now final. I've been playing her on stream. If you look around the channel, I think today or tomorrow, you'll see a game where I played her first time since these changes. They increased her main battery reload, mucked about with her secondaries a bit, and her AA bubble. the end iteration of this ship, because she is essentially with these, yeah, they've stated these are, this devlog says these are final settings. She's not a bad ship, right? You know, especially for a ship that you're going to be able to get with a decent amount of time and a minimal amount of cash when they go to add this Hamburg dockyard in. I think it's next patch or the patch after, I can't remember. But I'm looking forward to this ship. Like, Odin is a lot of fun to play. There are going to be times you're going to look at matchmaking and go, oh, I hate my life, right? That's just the nature of the ship, especially with her health pool. But she is a fun ship to play. I think you're going to see people bust her out and take her in the Tier VIII ranked season that they recently announced. And more on that in just a second. And I think that she's not a bad pick for that season, if I'm brutally honest. Speaking of 9.6, actually, let's back up one more. Let's finish talking about 9.5. They're continuing to change all of these unique upgrades. They just posted a little dev blog that kind of talked through more of these changes, why they were changing, talking people through the rationale of why things are changing and what those changes are. And it's really nice to kind of see this peek into the mind of what's going on in St. Pete in terms of what's in their heads. And I really appreciate this. The fact that we may disagree or agree with the changes is a conversation for a different time. I think some of these changes are great. I think some of these changes are maybe questionable, but at least you're understanding the rationale and the reasoning behind why they've taken some of the actions that they have. 9.6, they've kind of given us a quick glimpse at 9.6, which shockingly is going to be the early access for German aircraft carriers. I can't imagine a world where these are going to be ready in time, but they've announced it, so I guess we'll find out. 9.5, of course, 9.4 where we are right now, early access for the Russian cruiser split, official Russian cruiser split coming in 9.5, which by the time this video goes live should be in just a few days, and then we'll do another round of testing on German carriers, and then in 9.6, which looks to be about mid-July, that will be the German carrier early access, which means 9.7 would be the full release of German carriers sometime in mid to early August. They're about a patch ahead of where I expected them to have these ships. So yeah, all right, we'll see. I feel like they've got a ways to go to get these ready. There's some cool stuff in this patch though. They're introducing some really awesome permanent camos for some of the high tier German ships like Hindenburg and Kurfürst and Z-52. Hamburg is getting a bit of the port itself is getting a bit of a touch up, which is really nice. They did announce the new ranked season. The ranked battle season will start on the 22nd of July. It will be at Tier 8 and 7v7, which I'm glad to see. I'm glad we're gonna go play some Tier 8. I like Tier 8 for ranked. I think it's a ton of fun. And then one of the things that I love, again, people have been harping on UI changes for a while. Yep, we've got a really nice UI buff coming in 9.6. The modules, the consumables, and the upgrades for your ship will all be on the same window, the same screen. That's going to be nice. I'll only have to click one place to outfit a ship before I want to take it out, as opposed to having to click 17 times right now, which is just, I'm so glad they're doing this. So glad. Yeah, so just a little bit of preview, kind of what's coming down. I'll put links to all these dev blogs down below. It's just some interesting stuff, kind of give you a look at what's coming. Yeah, that's about it. All kinds of good stuff still going. World of Warships continues to chug ahead. Yeah, we'll see how this. We'll see what else is going on in at the end of the week. Patches this week. So hope you guys will stay tuned. Stay tuned on the channel. Drop by Twitch. Come say hi and be safe out there. Wash your hands, and I'll catch you next time.